Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, of course, brought to you by BB. A reminder, as always, that there is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about these markets. Welcome, guys. If you weren't here yesterday, I hope you all had a phenomenal weekend celebrating Easter with your family, Easter Sunday, Easter Monday, whichever it was. We're happy to have you back. Obviously, the market is giving us a little bit of turbulence here to start the week, to start the month, to start the quarter. We're going to be breaking down everything that we possibly can to talk through these charts, Bitcoin, altcoins, and of course, equities. But as you guys know, I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I'm joined by Tucker and Jackus. Welcome, guys. I hope, like I said, I hope everybody had a great weekend. But before we can start climbing into that alpha, before we can start breaking down the full picture of markets, you already know what I'm about to ask you. If you're a regular, you definitely know what I'm about to ask you. We would love and appreciate if you guys could smash that like button before we get started. Obviously, the market is not cooperating necessarily with up only, quote unquote, but hey, this is part of markets as well. And we're going to be breaking down all of the alpha of what we think you can expect here over the next few weeks and months, but only if you smash the like button enough for us to get there. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and get into the markets. Let's get into Bitcoin, into altcoins, into equities too, since we have some surprising or not so surprising turbulence over in that side of the market as well. I mean, Bitcoin has more or less given us back-to-back 5 to 10% down days. Altcoins, it goes without saying, blood in the street. I think the title is very appropriately named. It's over. Send everything to zero. Pack it up, lads. The bull market is over. Yada yada yada. No, it's okay, guys. It's okay. These are things that we can expect, right? And this is something that we talked about yesterday. To the extent of study candlesticks. Every quarter, every month, every week, every candlestick that you see on a higher time frame will typically have an upper and a lower wick. Right now, I believe, if you believe that the trend is your friend, probabilistically speaking, we will close this next quarter higher than the previous one, which means, we have to put in a bottom wick on this quarterly candle as well. It's something we talked about yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a complete surprise that we're seeing Bitcoin essentially perpetually ranging really over the last few weeks. Maybe we were a bit spoiled, to start the year. We basically ripped up 50 to 100% on Bitcoin, wanted that aggressive trend to continue. And you can see that reflected in perpetual futures participants who just keep longing 71, 70K. And now they're puking once again. It's just like the last time that we rejected off of this level. And you could say that probably 3 or 4 times already now. And I think we can now clearly define this area as a range, right? So we have, seen that similar behavior at range highs about 3 or 4 times already. So nothing I don't think too much to be concerned about, but we are flushing that open interest right at the start of the quarter. Personally, I love to see that. I love to see our over levered brethren and sisters. We want everybody to make it, guys, but if you're greedy at the end of the day, that will probably catch back up to you. And we're seeing that catch back up to some of our friends, like I said, over in the Bitcoin and altcoin markets right now. Is that to say that the bottom's in necessarily? Who knows? I'm not going to put a guess on it, but I will say I do believe that we're going to close this quarter higher, despite this early week turbulence. I do believe that will be the case because it's like a lot of things that we've talked about. There are a lot of things that are very conducive to risk taking being favorable here over the next few weeks. We've pointed to the dollar. We've pointed to rotation out of Bitcoin into altcoins. And I think even the VIX as well, even though it's been up the first 2 days of the quarter, I believe when this cools off on the VIX, will probably present, at least a low volatility regime here for the next few weeks, which should benefit all risk markets. But it kind of goes without saying that a lot of this turbulence that we are seeing in equity, or that we are seeing in crypto right now, is probably caused by equities. As much as people like to ignore equities, Bitcoin is now an ETF that trades primarily on TradFi volume. So we are going to be tethered to equities to some degree, and equities are down. Specifically the S&P is down about 1% today. Small caps down a good bit more than that. I was looking at some of the smaller caps individuals, more specifically like their option spreads. people got blown out on some of these gap downs. So obviously a lot of, just like Bitcoin and crypto, you had a lot of people very levered into the highs. That is now being cleaned up to open the quarter. And we're going to see exactly how it's going to, unfold here over the next few days. But I do believe I look Irish. Wow. Irish, but I'm going to choose to take that as a compliment. I don't have the red hair, though, quite like an Irishman. But I am excited to talk markets with you guys, as always. We do have a good bit of volatility to open the quarter here. And I thought Max said it best on our Discord call yesterday morning. These quarterly opens are really important to now have marked out as levels, because when they get flipped, that's going to be a very risk-on signal for pretty much every market that's applicable to. So I do believe the stage has been set for the show, though, gentlemen. I'd love to know what y'all are seeing in the markets today.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is a pretty nice retest of this fib. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, this looks pretty constructive. I mean, I'm not gonna say the bottom's in, because we are just kind of starting this sell-off. We haven't really, seen any sort of reversals, even on lower time frames. We, a little bit of life, but it's like the meme. It's like, all this, and then it's like, oh my God, we're so back, right? So, not gonna say anything too prematurely, but I mean, we can get into higher time frame stuff, right? But it's like, are you gonna get chopped up in this range, right around all-time highs? We've looked at the corollaries before, right? We've looked at the similar price action before, right? It's like, what are we talking about here? It's like, I don't know. I think volatility around the all-time high, around the halving, is to be expected, right? Were we all aggressively short and sold everything here? Absolutely not. But I think if you are looking for a dip to bid pre-halving, you're getting it right now, right? Even if we do go lower.
So, let's be real here, Tucker. I think we need to congratulate bears on their 5% short and send them some cards and let them know how they were right. And we appreciate them. Let them know we appreciate them, because the dip that everybody says keeps on dipping, it's not going to dip much more. Like,
Wow,
we're
man.
high. We're literally high. Like, I'm sorry, I got to come in a little hard this morning, but it's, I'm trying to dial it back. But it's hard, because what has really happened here? Zoom out, put it on the weekly. We're ranging like we said we would, between 65 and 70. That is all that is occurring here. Nothing else. We are literally ranging sideways. What is there to discuss here?
I love that
What do you
we're
think,
flushing
Tommy?
out. I love that we're flushing out altcoin open interest on the first 2 days of the quarter. I absolutely love that, because we were getting pretty hot in the range highs yesterday, like we were kind of discussing. But that's something that funding's a meme in a bull market to a large extent. But you can only push the buttons of of funding on altcoins, I think, specifically, so much before you get a mechanical reaction off of range highs. You do need some demand to push you through that level. That's some spot bid to come in to normalize funding. And obviously we didn't have that come in. It was a long weekend, so we couldn't have that BlackRock, Larry Fink TWAP bid to come in. But yeah, I mean, it's like you guys said, it's more or less just ranging up here. To me, it feels like we have the halving in less than 3 weeks. It feels like a shakeout before the halving.
Jackus, what's your take, brother?
It's over. Send everything to zero. Pick it up. Let's
pack it up.
It's yeah, I mean, we discussed all of this happening, so it's going according to my plan, and I feel very comfy. I feel unbothered, moisturized, happy. I've been enjoying my Easter holiday, and I'm not stressing one bit. Actually, I'm very much enjoying this dip. I'm enjoying lots of people, being proven. Well, well, let's not discuss other people, but it's just how it's out there in the trenches, and it's looking good. I'm being very serious. I'm enjoying this dip, and I think it's a great buying opportunity still for many alts. I kept on repeatedly saying that some alts are not looking good as a buy or hold for some time, and those have been proven right. Many communities of some of these alts are getting super frustrated. That's a great buying opportunity because the cycle is, in my opinion, in no end. And listen, my definition, as I keep on saying, my definition of alt season is when alts start to outperform on the BTC pair, and we have not seen that yet. So in the past cycle, we had these big flips with big drops just as well. And even if you think about Sol, and this will sound funny because Sol is currently at $180, and in prior cycle it went to 260. But in its first move, Sol went to an incredible $5. It was a 900% bump, and from a 900% bump, it dropped minus 80%. And do you know what happened after? Guess what? It went up 4,600%. And this, in my opinion, is still ahead of us. And guess what? Those 4,600%, that wasn't the cycle top. It went to $60 and then dropped another minus 70%. And guess what? After that drop, it went another 1,000% higher. So people, I think we are just undergoing the first major higher time frame dip on some of these very good sound coins for this cycle. Let's put it that way. And people have lost the sight of the forest for the trees, and that is an opportunity. And with that, I'll pass it back to you guys.
No, I agree. Definitely some discounts on across the board. I did do some slurping, not necessarily on crypto earlier this morning, but I did talk about that individual small cap over in the stock market where I saw the spreads get blown out, and I was like, well, I feel like I have to buy some now. But I do think it's like we talked about yesterday, Jack. It's like I don't know if you watched the episode, but we were kind of talking about the high time frame momentum on things like the 1 month and 3 month RSI. It does feel like a game of patience, and it's not surprising that we are chopping up near all-time highs. We're threatening a high time frame structure break. This is something that you often, I think we talked about this last week, even, like you often see
weeks
really
now.
high volatility. You often see like really high volatility chop around all-time highs, and that's not just true about Bitcoin. That's true about a lot of assets that are trying to enter price discovery.
I feel like bears want so badly to be right here. They want to be right so badly. And the reality is like, it's not about being right or being wrong. I feel like people that always come to this market, they have this thing where they'd rather be right than make money, right? That's a problem. That's a real problem, because if you're dealing with somebody who would I don't care if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then I just get a better discount. This is what it is. I have shoes to sell.
Well, I actually saw. I'm not going to interrupt you for very long. I was just going to say, I think I saw a great tweet on this over the weekend. It's like being a contrarian is the ultimate midwit trap, when going with the herd unironically is what you should be doing. People joke about mid curvers, but what do you think is going to move the market?
Tell me.
The right curve or the 98%?
The 98%.
Do you know, guys? Do you know when it's good to be a contrarian? It's in a bull market. You want to be contrarian to bulls, and in a bear market, you want to be contrarian to bears. That's what I found. Is that it's like overbought in a bull market doesn't matter, but oversold in a bull market does.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up, because that's exactly it. The metrics flip depending on which side of the trend you're on, right? And until the trend breaks, you can't flip the metrics. It just is what it is. You have to deal with them. Is it rough? Yes. I mean, I'll tell you, 2021 I was having a hard time dealing with the overbought scenario in my mind, but I just kept on bidding. Like it only made sense because the trend was in my favor to keep on bidding. It's just when the trend flipped, I already knew what was going on. It was over, right? The RSI flipped, everything flipped all together, and it was like, okay, it's signaling I need to get the hell out of this market. Um, and that's what I did, and I did it based off of the metrics that I use, or at least the indicators and chart patterns that I use, and all that stuff. And I think like everybody has their own, right? Everybody should stick to their own if they're good at what they do with what they use. But at the end of the day, it's not really about, is this all over for me? It's just like, are we within the metrics that I gave? And yeah, I think we are. I think, I said roughly 65 to 70. We'll poke roughly at 75, right? We'll probably poke roughly at low 60s here and there in this range, but the range is 65 to 70. And if you respect that range, you understand what's going on here. I mean, Ethereum itself, let me give you guys a little bit of context for ETH. Ethereum's actually forming a pennant, right? And yeah, arguably Bitcoin's doing the same
And
thing.
yeah,
Hmm?
What was that? I think somebody said something.
we lose
No,
one.
it was a background voice.
Oh,
from
okay,
me.
okay. Yeah, I
Or
was just
maybe
gonna
from
say,
someone else.
if you look, yeah, and Bitcoin's looking like the same thing. If you put Ethereum on the daily there, Tucker, looks very similar here. I mean, both of these look like big breakouts on the daily time frame. If you were to draw a pennant off the lows to the highs, I mean, sorry, the low to the low and then the high to the high, here in this range that we're at right now, you would see a pennant, and you got to tighten it up a little bit on the daily, but you can draw it right there from that little lip. Yeah, yeah. And then the lip from the very low there, from the very low. Now pull that back more, Tucker. You'll see that last lip I'm talking about. There you go. Yep. You've basically got a pennant here. Now, can you draw what a pennant pattern looks like here, Tucker, and which direction that heads? Just for the audience. If it invalidates, it invalidates. But for now, I'm going with the pattern that's showing me. That is how a pennant works, right? And if the pennant was at the low after a drawdown, it would mean that we're going down really freaking deep, right? Which Bitcoin did do going into the bear market. It made many pennants on the way down, showing you that you were going to drop hard every single time. Well, now you're getting pennants to the upside forming and starting to show you that you're going to rip hard on a lot of these charts right now. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Man, I think Ether right now is the most comfy buy in this whole cycle. Like right now, you have the absolute confirmation the bull market is here. We have not yet broken all-time highs, and this is a clear reaccumulation pattern. So I have no idea what's the deal.
Hey, Tucker.
Yeah, I don't think it really makes sense to FUD ETH anymore as like principal ETH fudder.
Now, just for the audience sake, this is what they call a traditional pennant flagpole, right? So it's your flagpole. That means you run up into your pennant into your next flagpole. That's how it works. And then if you were looking for a reversal pattern here, you would look for something like a diamond or like a flat bottom into a lessening high, right? That right there would give you a bear breakdown. Or you would look for a bear flag, which would mean that price is building to the upside, looking to drop to the low. None of those things are occurring here. The only patterns I can see in this upper range here on the daily is, and this is a lower time frame. I know it's not the decade, guys. All right, so just hold your minds together. But on this daily time frame here, the only directionality I can see from this or forming from this, unless this breaks and we retest the lows at 60, and then we can come back to that and revisit it, is roughly that we're going to turn this into a pennant and this thing's going to break out.
I could see us testing like 62, 63 on Bitcoin and maybe like another 100, 150 points on ETH. But I think that would probably be it. But beyond that, I'd be pretty surprised because then you would start really threatening the integrity of the range that we're building right now.
I dare just say we don't see below the low, below the deviation low on Ether. I cannot see that happening.
The deviation low, the
Yeah.
30. I don't think we're going that low. 30, 50.
Yeah.
So somebody asked. They said apparently ETFs are not selling today. Thoughts? I don't know what that means. Unless you had direct contact with Larry Fink, I don't know how you would get that information. Um, or any of these other firms that are actually selling ETFs. Like if anybody's saying that, they need refutable information.
He's just saying like this, Will, like the IBIT and the Fidelity one, like.
Yeah, but
listen, the only actionable ETF data you have is very long term and not short term. Like you cannot buy or because what happened yesterday you cannot action today. The only thing you can look at is basically like, hey, people that are buying into these ETFs, majority of them are looking to hold for 10 or more years, right? That's the one. Second, it was the most successful ETF launch in history, and it surpassed what took gold 3 years took BTC spot ETFs 2 months. All right, and these are the only thing you need to understand where we are heading. It cannot be more plain than that. And saying like the ETFs are buying or selling today is completely irrelevant. For that, it's not actionable for you for this day because that has already happened. So you got to look at the price structure that we have here, and then you can only use the long-term ETF data. Is the trend going up? Right. That's what you need to know.
Yeah, that's a great point too, Jack. Is like I wanted to give a little bit lower time frame. That's why we went the daily instead of the decade. But overall, like yeah, you need to follow the trend, right? And the trend is it needs to be in your favor. And the trend right now is in the favor of bulls. It's not in the favor of bears. So anybody saying any refutable information to that, I don't know what to tell you. Like it's almost like the people that tried to pick a top on Nvidia multiple times and probably living under a bridge right now. Like you wouldn't believe how many times I saw people saying, "I'm shorting Nvidia here, I'm shorting Nvidia here, I'm shorting Nvidia here," since $300.
Yeah. Well, do you know what's the most saddest part is that at some point these people will actually nail the local top, and every single follower of theirs will be like, "Look at this guy! He absolutely nailed the top." Congratulations, you are a master killer of the market.
They forget about the other 45 times that they lost the money, but the one time they
Yeah,
hit, this guy's a
exactly.
genius. I mean, look, if you sit there and you stab enough in the dark and there's somebody on the other end, eventually you're going to hit them, right? Eventually you're going to hit them. And that's what a lot of these people are doing right now. They're just trying to stab in the dark. This is the reason that the market's not going up, too. The market's not going up because why? Because it was anticipated that everybody's trying to log the breakout and everybody's trying to short the breakdown. So what are we doing? We're not going anywhere until those people get the hell out of the market.
What I think is totally fair take for some people is just say, hey, I'm not buying here because I think the price is too high for me. And it may not be too high in like for lots of people, but for some people, and I can respect that, they can say, hey, the risk is not there for me and I just do not want to participate. But they are not calling the top. And there is a big difference between people that just keep calling the top every single price move. And the toughest part is that there is people can do it vice versa when the market is downtrending as well. But the difference is here that especially in an inflationary world, there is no top. There is no top if you have an inflationary world. And essentially, some of the price levels will never get revisited ever again on, for example, SPX or even BTC or many of these assets, right? Gold, whatever you name the asset class. Whereas if you are kind of, quote unquote, buying the dip and then it keeps on dipping, if you just have diamond hands and you do not like start buying right at the top, or even if you are doing something as Sailor is, where he's like, I will legit buy the next top, right? So he's just like making buys and buys again, and he doesn't care about the price because he wants to hold the asset. That's also completely different strategy. But calling it the top in an inflationary world is just pure stupidity. And yes, at some point, these people will get it right, but you know, stupid.
So
You get one last thing, Will.
Yep.
You can buy BTC and be minus 50% down on it, right? Just so you understand, because when I say it like this, it may sound crazy, but this exactly meant that, for example, you bought 30K. And if you bought 30K, man, you hold minus 50%. You held through the drawdown. And it may felt like you've been such an idiot for doing so, but those people are now more than 100% up on their position. One of those is my friend, actually. And he is up so big, and he outperformed basically nearly every single financial advisor in my country and every fund and everyone. And it was just as stupid as this.
I love that you brought up the inflation part because I think just not enough people get it. Inflation is infinite and forever, and as long as inflation exists, markets going up is the only direction. Now that may sound a little a little off to people. They're like, "Oh, markets can come down." Yeah, they can come down, but historically, if you look at any market, they've never like just rolled over. Right? They can roll over in an area, but they go right back up and then exceed the previous high, and then they go much, 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 much higher than what the previous rollover was, and then they do it again and they do it again. Like you're trying to basically just nail areas within a decade, right, or within a 4-year pattern, and you're trying to get those to kind of just scrape out a little bit of profit. Where the reality is if you're buying good assets in general, right, whether they be stocks or assets or whatever, the ultimate directionality for that asset is up forever. And it sounds so mind-boggling to people because most people don't understand inflation or what inflation does to assets, or that inflation is actually good for the pricing of assets. And if you anticipate inflation coming back, like all the bears keep on claiming, then you should be invested in assets. It makes no sense not to be invested. Why? What is the biggest benefactor? I'll ask you, Tommy. What's the biggest benefactor to inflation? What
Risk,
benefits the most?
risk.
Risk. And risk in what?
I mean, I'm gonna. You're gonna have
What do we invest in? Right? What do we invest in?
crypto,
In crypto.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, stocks. I mean,
Love it.
I don't think bonds, but we can all argue that conversation. Bonds are a fixed number. But everything that you can speculate on has price appreciation whenever inflation goes up. A lot of people think that inflation is bad for people. The only people that inflation is bad for, not saying I don't feel bad for them, are people that don't invest. That's
Hey guys,
anyone who invests. Oh God.
sorry, Will. I was just gonna say if you're spamming the chat, we're gonna have to block you. I don't want that to be the case, but please stop spamming the chat with the same comment. Keep going, Will. Sorry.
No, I was going to say anyone who invests, they will make money. Here's the thing. If you want to invest and take risks, you have to realize those risks, right? And that means that if you're going way far on the risk curve, if you're not realizing it and you think it goes up forever, you're probably sadly mistaken, right? It will end, the boat will end at some point for that high risk asset. But if you're going out on the less risky curves, right? Like I would arguably say Bitcoin and ETH, right? I would arguably say that. Most stocks, not even all stocks are safe from the risky asset class, but most stocks, you could just buy them forever and always be appreciating your money much more than inflation is going up, right? And that's the part that people miss. They miss the forest through the trees. They're like, okay, we see a bunch of
Yes.
trees, but we don't consider it the forest. We just say it's a cluster of trees. And the reality is that your appreciation is let's say inflation's up 2%, right? And you're just trying to beat inflation. That's it. Nothing else. You're not trying to be rich. You don't care about that. You just don't want to see your dollar go down, your dollar be depreciated. In bad times and good times, especially in bad times, you're going to benefit from this. You just basically DCA an asset or DCA multiple assets that appreciate much better than inflation itself. And you will always beat inflation. You will always beat it that way. But if you're looking to get rich, you have to take risks. That's what it
Well,
is.
normies don't even understand like the significance of how badly the dollar's been devalued over the last 4 years. Because I was talking to my fiance about it, and the dollar has essentially lost 25 to 30% of its purchasing power over the last 4 years. And the way I explained it to her was, you would have been better off holding an asset, or let me rephrase. You basically would have been better off holding any asset than dollars, assuming that asset wasn't down by more than 25% over the last 4 years. So just think about that for a second. Like, if you are holding anything that is not down 25% in the last 4 years, you outperform dollars and holding them over the last 4-year period, which is kind of absolutely insane to think about. And also a little bit scary when you realize that they're only going to print more money at probably a more rapid rate than that. So I think the urgency to allocate to risk assets to beat inflation is just going to become more and more important.
You see this?
Tell me.
I love Chip.
The poor honestly are only going to become more poor. That is what it is, and it's unfortunate circumstances, but you have to face reality. You have to listen to the music at the end of the day, right? And I think not enough people are doing that. Too many people are hyper focused on where I can bleed out just 25% more on my position. Oh, where can I hold, or where can I sell here to buy here? Like the thing that blows my mind is the normal average person who probably works a 9 to 5, maybe does a little bit of TA sometimes here and there, not every night, just every once in a while. And they come on the show or they go on Twitter and they tell everybody how this massive crash is going to happen, and they maybe have a decent amount of followers and people actually listen to them. And it's like, have you put in the time to really study this information? Have you had the experience to really look at these things and know what you're talking about? You may sound like an intellect, but it doesn't mean that you understand fully what you are speaking on. And I think like when you get those people in these situations, they tell people to sell fear, right? And buy hype, essentially. It's never on the right side of the trade. They tend to fade the market all the way to the top and then tell everybody at the top that this is a super cycle. You need to get in. What do you think about that?
That's always been like that. Well, and always will be, as long as humans are humans, basically. Tommy, you've spoken about, all of us spoken about the inflation part. I think, and the government printing, right? And how you explain it to your girlfriend. Well, there is not a better, more obvious fact than looking at the gold chart and understanding how much printing there is going to be in the next years. Like, central bankers are the biggest financial entity in the world, and they are not operating on a not even month to month or year to year basis. They are operating on a decade basis, and the fact that they are doing the largest accumulation in 60 years basically is all you need to know. Gold breaking to new all-time highs, just telling you the governments will print everything they can to buy their votes and support the system not to crash, basically. And it's even crazy. I do not know if you guys know this, but like, there are kilometer long queues to buy gold in China right now. I do not know if you guys saw that. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And there is also a big difference in the spot pricing between gold and silver in China versus London exchange.
Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that the U.S. government just moved like $2 billion worth of Bitcoin today?
Did they?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, $2 billion moved this morning.
I mean,
where did they move them?
No idea.
All right, coordinated thought. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, if they've been moving it, are we really sure they haven't been selling any of it before this?
I don't know. Like, I feel like if people
Doesn't matter.
I feel like if people are saying they moved it, then you should be able to track it. It's on the blockchain.
No,
Like,
yeah, they're sending screenshots of it on the blockchain. But let's see.
It's a hard discuss. I don't think 2 billion is going to affect price whatsoever. Just going to come out and say that. But I do think like people at these times, like it's 65K Bitcoin. People, come on. We were just here like 2 weeks ago. Like I get so confused why people get so caught up in trying to find a conspiracy as to why something's happening when you're right
Yeah.
back where you started.
Yeah, people need to justify every single move with some narrative, like, oh my god, the market moved down today because there were, there were soldiers walking in some third world country or something. That's the reason why my XYZ shitcoin just dropped today. Man.
The war happened in Iran, so that's why a dog with balls dropped today. All right.
Yeah.
Look, man, my coin didn't rug because the dev pulled the liquidity. It's because it's because TLT's going down today. All right.
And he got scared. So he pulled liquidity. The market, like at these times, is like it blows. Like I literally just bought a shitcoin 5 minutes ago. Like everybody's sitting here so scared. Like you can't get any riskier than what I just did.
Will, do you have over 100 coins in your portfolio right now?
Let's not discuss that. Okay?
Some that are left unsaid.
Some of this
We need
stuff's
to
massively
check
in the
the
red.
like button, guys. We need to check on the like button. Hang on.
If we get enough,
people are demanding the soybean chart.
I would love some gold alpha from Jackus today if we can get to a like threshold that is sufficient.
All right, we're at
150.
113. We're at 113.
Appear more in discussion publicly lately.
We're at 113, guys. What do we want to get them to?
That's better than yesterday.
I think there is not that much time today, but we can make
That's
a
true.
deal that if tomorrow we hit 200 likes in 45 minutes, then I can jump into that.
You guys hear that?
200 likes in 45 minutes tomorrow. It's not just, by the way, it's not just gold, right? Like it interconnects with everything and essentially affects your shitcoins because people are not getting this connection. But yeah. Anyways, it's soybean chart probably, right? People demanded soybean chart. They want the soybean chart.
The people crave the soybean chart. We're gonna have to pick a new commodity to like start bullying people with because we're gonna accidentally meme soybeans into a ticker that people want to learn about.
Look, man. I do want to be clear. Oh, go ahead.
Next month, Maxi listing soybean perpetual swap index.
Why does that coin chart look like a pennant there? But anyways, at the low. Corn's going down in price, boys. I hope nobody bid. But yeah, so I want to bring up like I want to be clear because I everybody always hears me talk about shitcoins. I do accumulate Bitcoin. I don't do it in a way that other people do. I don't sell my position normally, unless I can see some kind of catastrophic scenario happening. Like in 2021, I did sell because I was like, oh, this shit's over. Inflation's at 9%. Like the Fed's gonna step in for sure. They ain't got a choice. And it was probably much higher than that at the time, to be honest with you. But they're gonna say 9%. But at that point, I could see that it was over. But like where we are now, like it just makes no sense to me to sell to buy for a 5% drawdown or a 3% or 10, or even a 10% drawdown. Like I'll eat that because I think that it's going much higher. And I think that's really the mindset that you have to have. Like if you're investing in these markets, you just it's 90. Like I pointed this out in our Discord, and I'll go ahead and I'll give it to the audience. Is trading and investing is 90% psychology. You know, we'll look. I'll even give you some benefit of the doubt. I'll say it's 80% psychology, 12% TA, right? 5% sleep. And basically whatever remains is your FA, your news, your MSN. This is why I always tell people stay the
100%
news.
to remember the name.
Yeah, like this is why news doesn't matter to me because news is such a small percentage in that pick that news is not what's going to move my price. price is already moved based off of TA. People, but listen, I'm going to explain something to the audience that a lot of people don't understand. If you heard news, somebody in the government, Nancy Pelosi, all of our world's best traders have already learned this information before it ever hit the news. They already sold. Like you're selling the bottom of their bottom by that time. By the time news hits your ear, you're selling the bottom of their bottom. And I can tell you, unequivocally that's sometimes that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to sell the bottom of their bottom, and then they'll come and scoop that back up for cheaper, and they'll swing it back up. You need real systemic issues. What's a real systemic issue? It's high inflation, because nobody's going to deal with that shit. I don't care what country it is. Nobody's going to deal with that. Outside of that, everything else flies. Wars fly. Anything you can think of under the sun flies outside of inflation. Everything else is just a factor for dips or runs or whatever. And so those to me are just noise, right? And if you factor out noise and you only factor in facts, it's either high inflation, which means I need to be selling, low inflation, which means I need to be buying because high inflation is going to come back. And then on top of that, everything else is just dips, and I'm running off a TA. That's it. I don't care about your FA. I don't care about your fundamentals on why this is going to happen or that's going to happen, because it's always hindsight with FA. People talking about FA, they're always talking about, what if you'd have bought NVIDIA in 2013, then you would have millions of dollars. You'd only had to buy $4,000 worth. Well, who thought of that? Because if everybody knew that, then everybody would have bought $4,000 worth of NVIDIA. But guess what? Nobody did, because nobody knew NVIDIA was going to be where it's at today. That's hindsight. And that's why I hate those articles. They bait people into believing something that's nearly impossible to foresee. You just have to look at the TA and see, does the TA match up with what I'm looking at? And I'm going to bid this because this asset has appreciation through TA.
Well, look at the dollar. Look at the dollar, man, because look, this is kind of the dollar with the interest rate cycle, right? Like, they raised rates, dollar goes up. They hold rates, dollar does this, goes sideways. What do you think is going to happen when they cut rates?
The dollar's going to go down.
Well, yeah, literally. Like, they raise, they hold, they cut. Okay, that's what's going to happen. So, I mean, I don't see any other outcome here.
Yes.
And dollar devaluation means you need to be in something that appreciates, right? So you need to have assets in dollar depreciation. When dollar appreciates, you need to have nothing but dollar, because that means dollar is drastically outpacing all assets at that point. And that's what inflation is. Why don't you give us your thoughts on oil? Why don't we discuss oil?
Yes, I would actually love the thoughts on oil. I saw that was looking very bullish earlier in the week. I haven't looked today, though.
Not bad.
Does not look bad. But as we said, I mean, this is a process, right? I mean, inflation is going to be rising over the next few years. It's kind of inevitable, honestly. And this is one of the factors that's going to put a lot of pressure on it.
Listen, cocoa is trading above 10,000. Oil is going to 300 at minimum. People don't get it. It's only about how controlled the upside is going to be, not whether it comes. I do not know how much more cleanly I have to put it, that it's so obvious that oil is going to 2 to 300 price range.
That reminds me of Sol at after it blew off to $46 in November or October, was it? Then it consolidated and ripped a lot higher. So yeah, I'm biased that it's probably going to trade a good bit higher.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna have to call it here in probably 60 seconds, honestly.
We got to hop on a business call. I can do an outro really quick here, though, guys. It was a shorter show than usual, just because Bitcoin is blowing up. We got some business, some professional business to take care of. But wanted to shout out to you guys, the audience, for being here as always. Once again, a reminder that Jackus will be presenting some alpha for you guys tomorrow if we can hit 200 likes within the first 45 minutes. Real quickly, I'm going to touch on our programming before we wrap up, though, guys. A reminder that Market Check will be returning again tomorrow. Like I said, hopefully we can get some big juicy alpha on that show. We are live, typical starting time around 11 a.m. Eastern time. We talk markets, trading, technicals, charts, and everything in between. As you guys know, these shows can kind of take a flavor of their own, and in a lot of different varieties. Of course, we also have our flagship show, a Twitter space, Market Talk, that's hosted by the legendary King Wabi. That has a new start time. The new start time is 2 Eastern time, right, Tucker?
He's doing that Tuesday, Thursday, I believe. So today should be regular time.
Perfect. So that will be around 4:15 Eastern time today. So make sure to tune in for that, guys. Wabi does a great job on those shows, and we always have some really great guests that tune in and speak, especially now that we have so much volatility going on in these markets to start this week and to start this quarter. But still excited nonetheless. Looking forward to seeing what opportunities we have here over the next few days to be bidding, to be looking at what sort of ranges these altcoins and other assets are shaping up to form, and obviously trading opportunities that comes with that. But that's all from us, guys. Shout out to you guys for being here once again, hitting the like button. We appreciate you guys. But that's all from us. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks again.
Yeah, sorry about that.